Saving America one entrepreneur at a time, it's the Biz Rap Podcast with your host, Michael Manahan. The show that celebrates small business and entrepreneurs, it's Biz Rap Radio with your host, small businessman, educator, and author, Michael Manahan. And welcome to another edition of Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan, and I'm here helping small businesses. Yes, the businesses that you are running. I'm helping you run those businesses more effectively, giving you strategies that you can use to raise money for your business, to deal with those big corporations that are always trying to put you out of business, and to deal with the myriad of government regulations and hoops the government is putting you through in order for you to run your business. With BizRap Radio, hopefully you will learn strategies and ideas that can help you make more profits and put more money in your pocket. That's what it's all about. It's the American dream. That dream is to make money, and we're doing it right here on BizRap Radio. You know, knowledge is key in this world. You've got to keep learning. You've got to keep trying new things. And if you're spending all day taking care of your customers, which I know many of you do, you're not building your knowledge base. And if you don't have that knowledge base, you're not going to stay ahead of the curve. And speaking of staying ahead of the curve, one of the things that a lot of small businesses struggle with is negotiation. Yes, it's tough. You know, particularly here in America, a lot of us as Americans, we're not the best negotiators in the world. You quickly find that out when you go to the Middle East and go to the bazaar, or when you go to Asia and you go and try and buy something. In many places in the world, there's no fixed price, and the better the negotiator you are, the better the deal you're going to get. But a lot of us Americans, we just kind of think, hey, you know what? That's the price, that's what we have to pay, and there's no way around that. But that's not necessarily true. You can get a better deal for your business, whether that deal is a better price, whether it's more exposure, whether it's more for the money. And that all ends up in the bottom line. It's the profitability. It's the money you put in your pocket. So you need to be a better negotiator. And I've found somebody who can absolutely help us with that. I've got here on the line with me, guest of the show today is Eldonna Lewis Fernandez. And Eldonna is a master negotiator. Eldonna, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Great to be here and share some great negotiation strategies with your audience.
Well, I'm really excited about this because, as I mentioned previously, if you go outside the United States, it seems a lot of people in this world are better negotiators than we are. But negotiation is a skill. It's a learned skill. Maybe there's some people who are just born negotiators, but I think for those of us who aren't good negotiators, we can learn the skill, but you can't learn it without studying it. So, Eldonna, are there any tips that you could give the listening audience here that you think would help them to become better negotiators?
Well, one of the first things that I always talk about is basically the most common mistakes people make in negotiation. And one of them is lacking confidence or thinking you have to have more confidence than you already have to be a good negotiator. And obviously confidence comes from experience, it comes from within, it comes from doing things. And I've often had people say to me, well, I don't want to go sit down to a negotiation to build my confidence and mess up the deal, right? So my suggestion is to go out to some places like yard sales and swap meets and start getting some negotiation experience by training your skills by actually doing the negotiation, and that, in essence, will build your confidence.
So what you're really saying is it's practice. It's part of it is doing it, and if you don't do it often enough, you won't develop that skill. You know, it's interesting. My listeners know that I teach college, and one of the things I talk about to many of my students is when you're looking for a job, you need to be out there practicing interviews. You can't just go to one interview and expect to get the job. You got to practice to develop your interviewing skills. So what you're saying is, hey, you really need to practice your negotiation skills, and it could be as simple as going to a swap meet or a yard sale and trying to negotiate with the person selling the stuff you want to buy.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people want to flip a light switch to become an instant expert, but you can't do that. The power's in the work is one of the things I always say. You have to do the work in order to get good at something. You can't just expect to walk up and be an instant expert. And, we're in a microwave society where people want to do a lot of that quick turnaround. I want to be an instant expert. Everything's quick. I want to throw it in the microwave and poof, I'm an expert at something. And unfortunately, especially in negotiation, it doesn't work that way. That's why I developed my own 3-day training to help people to be able to have a place to experience negotiation. But I also suggest doing the yard sales and the swap meets and things like that. And you have to keep doing it in order to get good at it.
That's interesting. You kind of mentioned that, how we're into this instant gratification. I notice one of the big things on the internet these days is kind of the secrets. The 10 secrets to this or the 5 secrets to that. As if you just know these 4 or 5 or 10 rules, you've kind of got it made. But at the end of the day, you don't get good at anything unless you practice it on a reasonably regular basis. And if you look at most of the trades that most people have, you don't become a good accountant unless you practice accounting. You don't become a good attorney unless you practice law. You don't become a good bricklayer unless you get out there and lay a few bricks. And you can't just have a quick fix guide that gives you the 10 points. You've got to really try it out and do it. It's BizRap Radio. I'm here with Eldonna Lewis Fernandez. She is the negotiator extraordinaire. Now, Eldonna, if somebody's interested in learning more about what you provide, where can they go? What's your website?
My website is www.thinklikeanegotiator.com.
Well, and how could you get much more succinct than that? Thinklikeanegotiator.com. Check out Eldonna's website and see what she's got to say. Eldonna, any other tips that you might give to somebody who's thinking about, I want to improve my negotiating skills? What else could you suggest to them?
Well, just a caveat on something that you said in the beginning about, in America, that seems like the price is the price, but what I always train is that everything is negotiable when you think like a negotiator. Oftentimes we think things are not negotiable. That's the price. That's what the price is being offered at. And it may not necessarily be a discount off the price, but it may be a different term or condition that you may be able to negotiate in. If you look at it with the mindset that everything's negotiable, it opens up so many more doors than you thought were shut in your face. Basically, I get discounts off of retail all the time, and things that are this is the price, or this is the way it is, or somebody tells me no. I just keep going and until I get the deal that I want, or even another strategy of the negotiation is just be willing to walk away from it if it's not really acceptable to you. But most of the time, you can get a good negotiated agreement that you thought that you couldn't get just by simply asking or negotiating for it.
Yeah, it's this reminds me of the old adage I learned years ago in sales, and I remember a mentor of mine saying, Mike, at some point in time, you've got to ask for the order. You've got to stop selling and actually ask for the order. Well, I guess it's similarly in negotiating. At some point in time, you've got to ask for a deal. You've got to say, okay, I'm sold, the product sounds good, but hey, I need a better price, or I need something else for me to move forward and make the buying decision. And we often just don't even bother to ask. We just kind of assume that maybe we'll get lucky, but we don't actually put anybody's feet to the fire, if you will, and say, okay, what else can you do for me? What else can I get from you?
Yeah, and rolling into that, that's one of the other tips in my Think Like a Negotiator book is ask for exactly what I want. Too many times, like you said, we don't ask, and then we don't ask for what we want. A lot of times we are afraid to ask because we fear rejection. People say no 3 times before they say yes anyway, so you just have to figure out a different way to ask if they say no, and ask some more questions. A lot of times no is just a request for more information. So fearing that rejection is not a reason not to ask. You have to ask for what you want in order to get it.
And that's a subject I really want to discuss, this whole fear of rejection. But we are coming up on a commercial break, so we're going to have to break for some messages. But we will be right back. It's your host, Michael Manahan, Biz Rap Radio. I'm speaking with Eldonna Lewis Fernandez. She is a negotiator extraordinaire. And when we get back, we'll talk more about how you can negotiate and get more of what you want. We'll be back right after these words. And we're back with Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you are just joining us, we are on the line with Eldonna Lewis Fernandez. She is a master negotiator. You can go to her website, thinklikeanegotiator.com. And we've been talking about strategies that can help us be better negotiators. And, of course, it's Biz Rap Radio, the show that's all about small business and entrepreneurs. And as small business people and entrepreneurs, typically cash is always tight, which means we need to get the biggest bang for the buck that we possibly can. And it means we need to be better negotiators. So we've talked about some tips for negotiating in the first segment of the show, and we kind of ended off the last segment getting into that classic human trait, I guess you will, that many of us have, and it's that deathly fear of kind of rejection. We're afraid to ask for the discount because what if the person says no? You know, we're afraid to ask the pretty girl in high school to go to the prom with us in case she says no. We're always afraid of rejection. And Eldonna, from a negotiating perspective, how do we handle that?
Well, part of being a good negotiator, like I said, comes from confidence, and you have to have that inner game. You have to have your inner game under control, and the fear of rejection comes up a lot of times from maybe things that have happened to us in the past, in our childhood, or whatever. I heard somebody on the radio the other day saying something about we're always in present time attempting to work out things from our past and make sense out of things that happened to our past. And that comes up a lot in the rejection. Oh, what does that mean? I'm being rejected. It triggers something that we felt before. But the key is to not take it personally. I heard somebody call it Q-tip. Quit taking it personal. It's not about you. It's maybe they, like I said, they need more information, or people say no 3 times before they say yes because we're conditioned at no. Think about when you were a kid, how many times you heard no. No, don't touch that. No, don't do that. No, don't say that. No, no, no. So we're conditioned with no without even realizing it. So you have to get in the mindset, back into putting on that mindset of thinking like a negotiator that, okay, what is this rejection really about? You have to analyze it and take it further. You know, maybe it is somebody that's not your perfect client or perfect fit client. But you have to find out by doing some more research beyond the no. So it's just going beyond the no.
Gotcha. Yeah, it says we can really take this stuff personally. We actually talked about that on one of our previous shows. We were talking something quite the opposite. We were talking about accounts receivable collection and how a lot of small business people, when they have a bad debt, it's not just part of doing business. It's, big corporations, they expect, 2%, 3%, whatever of their accounts are going to go bad. They're going to write them off and they move on. But a lot of small business people, they get wound up emotionally. Oh, my God, how could that person do that? He came in here. He was in my store. I quoted him on that, whatever it was. He was such a nice person. We had such a good relationship going. And then the person stiffed me. Oh, my God. And it's this very personal, deep-seated thing. But at some point in time, you have to say, hey, this stuff isn't personal. People say no all the time. People don't pay you all the time. That's part of doing business, and the better you are at handling these occasional rejections and disappointments that come along, the more effective you're going to be as a small business person. So we've coming to the middle of our segment here. It's Biz Rap Radio. It's Michael Manahan is your host. We've got on the line with us Eldonna Lewis Fernandez. And Eldonna is a negotiating expert. Her website, thinklikeanegotiator.com. She's been sharing with us some ideas that can help each of us become better negotiators. And why is that important? Because at the end of the day, better negotiators are going to put more money in their pocket. And that's what being a small business person and entrepreneur is all about. You really are achieving the American dream if you go out there, run a business, and put money in your pocket to take care of yourself, your family, and your friends. So, Eldonna, we've got about a half a segment left here. What is there one more idea you can give us before we're finished with you for the day?
Well, you don't want to discount the importance of building relationships first. In the negotiation, in any kind of discussion, you want to take some time to get to know the person. This goes back to what I said about the microwave society. And I don't know if you've ever been to a business networking event. Most small business owners go to events to meet people to get more business. And you go to these events and somebody's just running around harvesting everybody's business card, and then you end up on about 10 mailing lists and you don't even know the person. You get something that said, "It was great meeting you at the networking event." What? Who are you? You have to take time to build relationships. Relationships take time, and the better deals come from building the relationship first. It's really, really important to do.
That so resonates with me because my wife is from another culture. She comes from another country, and I notice when we go shopping, she's busy gabbing and gossiping with the sales clerk. And I'm thinking, well, first of all, you're wasting the sales clerk's time. And secondly, what are you accomplishing? You're wasting our time. But really what she's doing is exactly what you're talking about. She's building rapport with that salesperson. And I swear, if she can be in there 15 minutes and she'll be getting all sorts of stuff thrown in, discounts and things that I just would never even get, because I very often am too much of a rush, if you will, to get the transaction completed. But that rapport is so important, and it's funny you mentioned networking because as a college professor, one of the things I'm doing next week or the week after is actually putting on a seminar for students on how to network, to teach them to go out to, go to a networking session and, as you say, collect business cards and meet people. But I'm going to throw into that seminar a segment on how you've got to build rapport. It's more than just about going in, as you say, collecting 15 or 20 business cards. You need to develop a bond with somebody so that when you do need that bargain, you do need that deal, this person feels more like a friend and somebody who they've got a vested interest in the relationship. They're going to be more inclined to help you. Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, I call it the know, like, and trust factor. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And how are they going to get to know you enough and like you enough to trust you to do business if you're just running in, grabbing whatever, and leaving? I was in the military for 23 years, and I deployed to the Middle East after 9/11, and business there, the price is all based on the relationship. I would go place to place, and it would take us a long time, and it would be me with my little pad of purchase orders, a finance guy with a bag of cash, and we had a Suburban, and we go in town and buy the place up and bring it back to the base. And he was like, "Come on, we got to go. I'm like, "No, we don't. This is part of the deal." And we'd sit there for 45 minutes to an hour before we'd even hand my list off. He'd say, "Where's your list?" I'd hand it to him. He'd hand it to his guy, and we'd keep talking, and I got the best prices based on the relationships that were built. It's not about quantity. It's about quality of connectivity with people. Another example, I just wrote a blog post called Ditch the Pitch, and the thing about that is somebody on a social media site connected with me, and I accepted the connection, and then they sent me this generic pitch. They didn't use my name. It was just kind of looked like a cut and paste out of a marketing piece, and they didn't even sign their name. I immediately disconnected from the connection and sent a professional email and said, "Yeah, sorry, don't even know you. You sent me a pitch right off the bat. Forget it." That time has passed. We're in a relationship economy. We need to take the time to connect with people. on a more intimate level than just give me your business card and let me put you on my list.
I love that phrase, relationship economy. I'm going to write that one down. I hope you don't have it trademarked. Look, we've got about 1 minute left, and I know that this is how you make money, and you've been giving away a lot of really great free ideas. So give us, if you can, about a 30-second pitch here about your service and what you can do for people.
Well, like I say, negotiation is whether it's a multi-million-dollar deal or where to meet for dinner, we're all negotiating each and every day of our lives. I have a book, Think Like a Negotiator, 50 Ways to Create Win-Win Results by Understanding the Pitfalls to Avoid. I speak. I can be brought in to speak to corporations, associations, events, things like that. And I also do my own 3-day training twice a year to help people be better negotiators. And actually, it's an experiential training where you will learn the keys and strategies to negotiation, be a better negotiator when you leave. So visit thinklikeanegotiator.com. Connect with me there. There's a free report on Contracts 101 basics, and you can get on my list, and I do blogs on my website and all types of things about negotiation. So thinklikeanegotiator.com. See you there.
Fabulous. Eldonna, thank you very much. It's Eldonna Lewis Fernandez and thinklikeanegotiator.com. Check it out, and you'll be glad you did. It's BizRap Radio, your host, Michael Manahan, and we will be back right after these messages from our sponsors. Thank you so much for joining us. And welcome back to BizRap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan. This is the show all about small business and entrepreneurs. We're here to help you run your business better, make money, start your new business with suggestions, ideas, things you can actually take to the bank. That means put more money in your pocket. We just had a great discussion with Eldonna Lewis Fernandez. She is the negotiator extraordinaire. Her website, thinklikeanegotiator.com. You need to check that out. Don't forget, just because there's a price tag on it, it doesn't mean that's what you have to pay. Everything is negotiable, as Eldonna says. But now we're going to turn the segment to our regular contributor to BizRap Radio. I've got on the phone with me, it's David Frazier, the Market Monk. David, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Mike. How are you?
Well, I am wonderful, but I've been reading in the newspaper and on the internet, and I'm a little concerned. We are not creating the jobs we need to create in this country to reduce unemployment, to employ all of the new immigrants, all of the people who are coming of job age, and to keep the economy robust. And I'm concerned about that. What can I read into the fact that we continue not to create the jobs we need in this country?
Well, let's see. Okay, first of all, you have a good reason to be concerned. And what can you read into that? I'm sorry for hesitating here. Well, the country's not creating enough jobs. I mean, it's not really much to read into. It's just a fact. But not enough jobs are being created.
Do you have a feeling why we're not creating more jobs? What's going wrong?
Well, I think what's going wrong is something that I've at least alluded to in some of our past conversations, and that is that the environment, unfortunately, does not exist to give business owners, whether they're small business owners or large business entities, reasons to create a robust amount of jobs. I mean, we've got an economy that's been growing very, very sluggishly, even though the Federal Reserve has maintained lending rates near the lowest levels ever. By pumping a lot of money into the banking system. But unfortunately, we've got people in Congress that, I don't know, off the top of my head, I'd say probably 85% of them, if lynching were legal, they should probably be lynched. These people, their actions indicate year after year that they're much more concerned about their own well-being than actually making a difference for the country, a positive difference. And so what I'm speaking of primarily is the Congress is just not doing things that they should be doing to try to really get this economy going. Now, if they were to try to do some things, I don't know if it'd make any difference, because it's a clown who I would not hire to serve coffee by the name of Barack Obama would probably veto any type of new legislation anyway. And for the most part, I'm thinking about two major things that the Congress could do, that they could do and the president could do. And that is they could reduce government regulation of business substantially, and they should do that, but instead they're doing just the opposite. And they could and should reduce tax rates substantially. I don't want to don't want to go on and on here, but real quickly, of course, they're going to have people on the left, make statements as to why that would be a bad decision. Well, I don't really care what those people say. Well, I don't care what anyone says, quite honestly. I go with what the data indicates. And those two things, big substantial reduction of government involvement and regulation of business and lowering tax rates, is exactly what Calvin Coolidge did in the early 1920s that led to the Roaring '20s, the great increase in economic activity. And it's exactly what was done during the Reagan administration that got the economy going. So that's what should be done, but none of that is being done.
Well, it's interesting you talk about government regulation, and on our last show we talked about this company down in Texas, a catering company down in Texas, that had an employee working for them. The employee showed as their identification for eligibility to work in the United States, they showed an alien registration card, the green card, what we call a green card. And the employer noticed that the green card had expired. So the employer said, well, you need to get that green card renewed or we can't hire you. Well, the employee went to the immigration service. The company was fined $26,000 because, in fact, as every small business should know, an expired green card is proof that you're eligible to work in the United States of America. Now, on the one hand, the government says, no, we don't want businesses hiring illegal immigrants, right? And you have to become a detective and fill out all these complex forms, the I-9 form, which, by the way, an employee could give you any one of 30 different pieces of identification to prove they're eligible to work in this country. You think you're doing the right thing, and you question, hey, this doesn't look right. This card has expired. Oh, no, you're going to get fined $26,000 because, in fact, an expired green card is proof that you're allowed to work in this country. Now, that's the kind of regulations we're talking about.
Oh, it is the kind of regulations that we're talking about. We've got a large number, I don't know what the numbers are, but it's a large number of paper shufflers at the U.S. government. And boy, if they actually, I don't know if they're even capable of thinking. They don't think. They just read what's on some document in front of them. We could go on and on about that. So yeah, we have way too much government regulation, and nothing's being done to change it. So we have this. So we've seen the economy continue to grow very, very sluggishly, not surprisingly. Right. And the situation is a concern.
Of course, you mentioned earlier that the Fed continues to keep interest rates low, and of course, you would think that would be a huge stimulus for business, because if you got your money in the bank earning 0.25%, well, put your money into a business, expand your business, and maybe you'll make a profit, 5%, 6%, 10%. But people are saying, hey, you know what? Even with interest rates as low as they are, the alternative, i.e. putting it into a business and trying to make a business work, is just not worth it, because that means complying with all of these government regulations and of course hiring people, and that's a whole issue these days, because you hire people, you can't fire them. If you turn and look at them sideways, you'll have 20 lawsuits against you for discrimination against this, against that, and against another thing. And so really, I think what a lot of small business people are saying, these are the people who create most of the jobs, I think what a lot of the small business people are saying, you know what, it's just not worth it.
Well, and I can't disagree with them. However, as a small business owner, and you and I are small business owners, we still need to find ways to try to at least maintain our profits, if not increase them. And we are in an environment, even though the employment situation is a concern, it's not getting better. We've seen 2 months in a row of a slowdown, and a big slowdown last month, so it's definitely a concern. But I do not see any signs of the economy going back into a recession, and therefore I would argue that we're in an environment where business owners really need to focus as much as possible, as always, on watching their costs, but also on ways to actually bring more people into their stores, to sell more goods and services, to outperform their competition. And so it's we need to do something. We need to do everything that we can, regardless of what's going on in the government.
Okay, David, we've got about a minute left, and I know that you mentioned you're a small business person, which means you need to make money. And so I want to give you this last minute we've got on the show to talk about, the Market Monk, your website, and what you can do for people and what they should do if they're coming to your website.
Oh, sure. Well, I would encourage almost anyone to visit my website and to go to our newsletter page and to look at what we have to offer. I mean, we offer a lot of different types of newsletters and various price ranges. Some of them are very, very low cost, and all of them you can subscribe to for free for a period of 2 months. And our newsletters, just take a look at them. We provide a lot of information on what's going on, not even just in the United States, but around the globe. And I know can be very, very helpful to anyone, an investor or small business owner that reads them on a monthly basis. I would encourage them to do so.
David, we are out of time. Thank you for joining us. This has been a great conversation. It's Biz Rap Radio, your host, Michael Manahan, with David, the Market Monk. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan, and thank you so much for joining me. This is, of course, the show all about small business and entrepreneurs. We're here to try and help you make more money, run your business more smoothly and more profitably, and maneuver through all of those wild and crazy government regulations and rules that you have to abide by as a business person here in the United States. And we had on earlier in the show a wonderful lady who was telling us all about negotiating strategies and how we can be better negotiators. That was Eldonna Lewis Fernandez. And, of course, you can find out more about her at thinklikeanegotiator.com. And then we heard from David Fraser. Of course, David is the Market Monk, a regular contributor to the Biz Rap Radio Show. We were talking about the economy and the dismal job numbers that have been coming out of the government. But David feels that that isn't a sign that the economy is slowing to any large degree, and that for business people, small business people, the strategy should still be one of expansion, trying to get more customers, do more marketing, do more advertising, but of course, be cautious on hiring people, particularly full-time people, because once you get that, payroll built up, you've got to meet that payroll nut every month, and you might be better off looking at part-timers and even outsourcing some of the jobs that you need done, so that you can perhaps have a better control over your costs in these still somewhat uncertain times. And of course, we're not pulling out of the recession as we have in past recessions. The job growth is lackluster. The economic growth is lackluster. You really have to believe, if you're doing, just following what's going on with our government, you have to believe a huge part of that has to do with overregulation and small business people being squashed in their desires to own and operate and run small businesses. There's a website that gives a lot of these statistics, and when you start to read them, I mean, literally, there are tears running down my face as I read some of the sad statistics relating to government regulations. As an example, there was over 3,000 federal regulations in the pipeline. That was back in 2013. A third of those will impact small businesses. Due to federal regulations, U.S. productivity growth rate is nearly half of its historical rate. The annual rate of new business startups is 28% lower than what it was back in the 90s, even though I still firmly believe as a business person and as an entrepreneur that one of the best ways to provide for your own economic well-being in this country is to own your own business, but new business startups are down. People are not willing to take the risk. A survey of small businesses suggests that small business people are not very optimistic about the economy and the future and what it holds for small business people. 60% of small business owners think it's a bad time for small businesses. And over 20% of small business owners cite regulations as their single most important problem. 90% of small business owners support reforming the regulatory process. I mean, when you start to look at these numbers and these statistics, it becomes, absolutely mind-boggling. And the compliance cost in our economy, just absolutely incredible. I mean, the average annual cost of regulations in President Obama's first 2 years in office ranged from $8 to $16.5 billion. That is money and resources that we're spending filling out forms and complying with government regulations when, in fact, we could be using that money to hire people and expand our businesses and grow the economy. And isn't that what we should be doing as small business people? If you're just joining us, it's your host, Michael Manahan. This is BizRap Radio. We are the show all about small business people and entrepreneurs. And speaking of government regulation, last week we talked about the I-9 forms that you as small business people and employers have to fill out and complete when you hire an employee. And we also talked about the government's program for verifying Social Security numbers, the E-Verify program. And you've probably heard people out there touting the I-9s and the E-Verify program as our solution to solving the problem of businesses hiring illegal immigrants. Well, think again. We have a whole article up on our website, bizrapradio.com. You can go there and read it. We talked about this extensively in our last broadcast. But in fact, the compliance obligation that the I-9 and E-Verify puts on a small business is absolutely unbelievable. An employee who completes the I-9 form can present you, the small business owner, with any one of over 30 different forms of identification, and it's up to you to determine if those pieces of identification are valid or not valid, if that makes the employee eligible or doesn't make the employee eligible. And if you do run the E-Verify system on the employee, and you find out the employee's using a fake Social Security number, guess what? You can't terminate the employee. No. You've got to give the employee plenty of time, maybe 6 months to a year, to actually prove that he does have a valid Social Security number and he or she is eligible to work in this country. I mean, what an absolute nightmare. These small business owners are being persecuted, really. That's what it amounts to, because the federal government is failing to do its job to control the borders and illegal immigration coming into this country. I don't want to get into a discussion about illegal immigration. That's not the topic here. But the topic is, if the government can't control the borders and somebody arrives on my doorstep and wants a job, I shouldn't have to pay police officer, FBI agent, and INS agent in order to hire the person. I should just be able to hire him. Simple as that. And all of the compliance on these I-9 forms and E-Verify is absolutely ridiculous. By the way, if you do any of those incorrectly, you're in trouble. Even if the employee is eligible to work in the United States of America, they're perfectly legal. If you don't fill out the I-9 form properly, you could be fined. And you could be fined repeatedly if that clerk, Sally, in your office, who doesn't fill those forms out correctly, you could be fined repeatedly for those forms not being filled out correctly every time she makes a mistake, even if the employees are perfectly legal. Or if you're too zealous, like that company we mentioned down in Texas, the catering company, employee had an expired alien card, and the employer thought, well, an expired ID isn't so good. Let's face it, if you had an expired driver's license, the policeman wouldn't let you keep driving. So the employer down in Texas says, you're going to have to get your alien registration card renewed, so we have a current one on file. Guess what? That company was fined $26,000 by the federal government, because apparently if you ask somebody to renew their alien registration card, you are engaging in, well, of course, discrimination. And all of you small business people should certainly know that. Wake up, America. We've got to have a revolution, and the revolution is we've got to get government off our back so we can run our small businesses, make money, drive the economy, and provide the jobs that we need to employ the people in this country. Isn't that what it's all about? So write your congressman, write your senator, write your representatives, and tell them to get off the backs of small businesses so we can get back to doing what we should be doing, which is making money for ourselves and our family. You're listening to Mike Manahan. It's Biz Rap Radio, the show that's all about small business, and we are coming to the end of this week's show. Thank you so much for joining me. You know, here at Biz Rap Radio, we believe we can fix the United States of America through a fundamental concept that individuals pursuing their own economic interests in free markets will create more prosperity for more people than can ever be achieved through government regulations and a planned economy. Biz Rap Radio, fixing America through individual economic freedom. And we will be back again next week with another edition of Biz Rap Radio. Thanks so much for listening.